Part of the turnover in the Michigan Congressional delegation is happening in the 4th District, which covers parts of mid-Michigan and northern Michigan. Representative Dave Camp is not running again, and this Republican stronghold has several candidates facing off in the primary. But what is really getting the attention here is the role of money in this campaign. Businessman Paul Mitchell has reportedly dumped $1.9 million of his own money into his campaign. Recent polls show he's leading over State Senator John Molinar, who has raised about $500,000. So it's interesting. Is it that you get what you pay for?
Well, I mean, obviously, you're getting something for that money. It's not, this is a small market, really. I don't know how you spend the kind of money they're spending there. I mean,
it's TV ads. There are TV ads and radio ads running.
They must be running constantly, because that is a whole lot of money for a congressional race in a basically, a mid-Michigan area, a heavily rural district. That is crazy amount of spending, and I don't see. Molinar's the state lawmaker. I think it's impressive he's raised as much money as he has.
Why?
Well, I mean, where's your financial base in that district? I mean, $500,000 is a lot of money for a state lawmaker to raise, particularly given the amount of time they've had. I mean, Camp left the race sort of at the last minute, and these people have had to scramble.
Nancy, is there a larger thing to talk about here in terms of this is where our political system and our political races are heading, where you just have to amass the largest amount of money, and whoever can do that and blanket the airwaves, then you pretty much, you have it?
I don't think that that's true. I think in the recent election cycle where Ambassador Bridge owner Matty Maroon spent millions of dollars to try to get a statewide, was it a constitutional amendment that would have stopped the construction of the public second span across the Detroit River, he failed. If anyone, it seemed to me like that was a test case for whether or not you can buy a ballot issue. I mean,
and that's interesting because it's an issue versus a person who would use that money to be able to get themselves out there, so you get to know them.
But so I don't think. I mean, I don't think it's always true that the most money wins, but it sure helps. but I don't think it's a bought and sold guarantee. Though there is a insane amount of money. The Free Press reported that he had Mitchell had added $750,000 to the 1.9 that he's self-funded. So we're talking over $2 million to $2.5 million more than that for
a congressional seat.
For a congressional seat, which is
we've got a Senate race in Michigan. It's going to hit $50 million or more. I mean that.
You think it's really going to hit $50 million?
Yes.
Where is it right now?
Well, it's probably in the 15 to 20 million range, and we haven't even gotten to the general election. I mean, wait until the fall comes. I don't know how there'll be enough TV space available, commercial space available for these candidates to buy. There's so much money being spent on these races. You got a governor's race still that's going to consume a lot of money. I mean, it's incredible. This could be a $300 million election cycle in Michigan.
And you've got folks who are spending all this money because they're supposedly committed to public service and the public good. I mean, one can't help but think of how many, I don't know, delinquent water bills of impoverished people could be paid out of that money if we're really talking about the highest and best use of money in the public good. It seems like that's obviously an issue I care about, but there's a lot of things that can be done with millions of dollars that benefit people in a much more direct way than having this specific person sent to Washington. It's a weird twisting of the idea of where money should be spent and what it should be spent on. And you're right, it does point out the need for some kind of significant campaign finance reform to keep these spending limits in some sort of reasonable parameters.
Is that possible, Nolan? Because I think that a lot of people do flinch when they hear that a Senate race is there's going to be $50 million infused. And that, to Nancy's point, gosh, $25 million could go somewhere and make a serious impact.
Yeah, she's good at spending other people's money. I mean, this is where these people want to put their money. But we've tried campaign finance limits. We've tried money limits. Money in politics is like water. It's going to find its way in. And what we should be concentrated on is transparency. Where the money's coming from, who's giving it, who's spending it. Every time we slap a firm limits on donations, on how much individuals or corporations or whoever can give, you get these shadowy organizations formed to skirt the rules. We've never managed to come up with campaign finance reform that, one, meets the constitutional requirements, but also keeps the money out. I think the best we can hope for is more transparency. We don't have enough transparency.
I almost set a record for agreeing with Nolan today.
I was just going to say, you've got to agree with that.
Absolutely. No, it's the worst of both worlds, because we have sort of this environment where you can spend just as much money as you possibly can, and there's not transparency that shows where it's coming from. So it's a lose-lose in terms of understanding what forces are at work in the campaigns.
All right.
Good for TV stations, though.
It's good for TV stations. It's going to be a banner year for local TV come September, I think, for a lot of the political ads.
Really underestimate the relevance of print advertising.
coming from the news and the free press.
Well, maybe they'll run out of commercial space and have to go to print.
We can only hope.
You can only hope.